Okay, I'm calling the meeting to order. It's 7:05, and it is, what is it, the 10th?
Yeah.
The 10th of June. And I'll leave the flag salute. We'll start with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the Beach Haven Municipal Building and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times, the Asbury Park Press, and the Press of Atlantic City. Mr. Allen.
Here.
Mrs. Baumiller. Here. Mr. Lynch.
Here.
Mr. Maskell. Mayor Davis.
Here. Mary Sherry, it's your manager's report.
Cash receipts in the current fund account for the period of May 1 to May 31st, 2019 were $3,471,728.85. Cash disbursements in the current fund account for the month of May totaled $2,837,096.88. The cash balance in the current fund account as of this period totaled $13,626,133.05. Cash receipts in the water utility account for the period of May 1st to May 31st were $124,858.69. Cash disbursements in the water utility account for the month of May totaled $69,053.26. And the cash balance in the water utility account as of May 31st was
$3,641,506.76. Would anybody that's standing please come forward and sit? There are seats. There's a number of seats. We would prefer people sitting instead of standing in the back. They ask you please to take a seat. The police officers may stand, but everybody else needs to sit down. So we'll start the meeting when everybody sits.
I'm gonna stand. I said too much, I need to stand.
My wife's coming.
James, can you adjust the air to a couple degrees?
Michael, there's a seat right down here.
That's all right, I'd rather stand. I need to stand.
Well, you're the only person left standing. We prefer if you sit.
I don't want to sit, I'm standing. I sat for 2 hours to get here. Now I'm standing.
All right.
All right.
If you want me to leave, just say leave.
I have minutes of May 30th, 2019 for an agenda meeting and the May 30th, 2019 executive session.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. At this time, I'd like to introduce Rob Clifton. He's the Senior Director of Government and Regulatory Affairs for Comcast Cable. He'd like to speak to you about our renewal application.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Let's have a brief statement and I'll take any questions you may have. We are nearing the end of a 3-year federally mandated process. The current certificate of approval, or COA, will expire on December 14th of this year. It is a document that a cable company needs in order to operate a cable system here in New Jersey. The Board of Public Utilities will issue it after the municipality and the company have an opportunity to speak. Once the governing body passes an ordinance and we file a petition with the Board of Public Utilities for their review. This process began back in January of 2017 when we sent what's called a 626 letter to the borough, which indicates that our intention to renew the franchise here in Beach Haven. 626 means it's section 626 of the FCC guidelines for cable renewal. We filed our application on March 14th of this year for the borough's review. Upon the close of the public hearing, the town would have 30 days to issue a consent ordinance or a resolution of denial. The time frame on this is very flexible since we have not had any formal face-to-face negotiations at this point. The BP would only step in and put these timelines into effect if either I was unresponsive to you or vice versa. The consent ordinance that we are seeking is a simple right-of-way. It is not a contract which will obligate the borough to do anything, but to allow us to continue to run our lines in the municipality, rights of way. Most importantly, it is non-exclusive, which means that any other video provider can come before the governing body and seek the same rights that we are seeking. There are 4 areas that the governing body must judge our application on, and this is from state and federal law. Has the cable operator substantially complied with the existing terms of the franchise and with the applicable law? Has the operator's service been reasonable in light of the community needs? Does the operator have the financial, legal, and technical ability to provide the services that we propose to? And is the operator's renewal proposal reasonable to meet the cable-related needs of the community? There are 2 areas that you cannot use in order to decide whether to renew or to deny. And the first one are rates. Rates are governed by federal and state statute. And the second is programming. Our channel lineup is protected under the First Amendment, just as newspaper content is. With that being said, I will open it up to anyone that may have a question.
Anybody have any questions?
How long is this for, 1 year?
No, the current expiring franchise has been 15 years. The franchises we've been getting the last couple of years, we are seeking no more than 10 years. We're seeking 10-year franchises.
Any other questions? I did receive a big long
Yes.
report, which I looked through, but I can't say I read every word.
It basically, under state law, we have to file that application. It lets you know that it's a snapshot in time. It tells you on that day who the officers of the company are, what our technical capabilities are, what our channel lineup is, what our tariff is. It shows you copies of our insurance and our bond that we have for the town in case anything is damaged while we do our work in town. But it's basically a snapshot in time of what we will provide or what currently provide.
Okay. Does anybody in the audience like to,
So at this time, we'll open the floor to public comment on this.
right, we'll have public comment at this time. If anybody has any questions for Rob Clifton. Anybody in the audience? Yes, we have somebody back.
Hi, my name is
Come up to the mic,
Yeah,
state your
state
name and
your name.
address.
And address.
Luke Seville, 328 Norwood Avenue, Beecham. I just completed a Comcast agreement through another town. Is that negotiable? And I also signed only a 5-year commitment, and I got the rates based on, typically only on the rate of inflation they can increase. Most people in this town, whether we like it or not, are using Comcast. And we were able to freeze the rates. We got a $14,000 because we committed to a 5-year agreement. We got a $14,000 kickback.
What else is the word kickback?
Okay.
Yeah,
Venice, Florida.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
Well, actually, is it you live in a planned community with private roads and things like that?
No.
I'd have to look at the agreement.
Okay, I'm just fine. I'm just saying there is, I don't know who does the negotiation here, but there is room for negotiation.
Yeah, the
That's
difference,
interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
the difference between New Jersey is, in New Jersey, it's a 3-year process. So if we did a 5-year, we'd be back in like a year and a half to start the process. That's why we're seeking a 10-year. The state, we could have gone for renewal through a statewide process, which would not have brought us to negotiate here, and we could have got a 7-year. So the least amount that we take is 10, as I said. But we will have an opportunity to discuss terms, and services, and possible grant money for the municipality.
That's you? Yes, okay.
How were they able to negotiate rates when they're telling us we can't?
I don't know how they did it in Florida. We don't do it in Florida. In some housing communities, there are bulk agreements that our business department deals with. and they can set rates based on that. Everyone in the community gets the service. They all get a certain level of service, and then that way our return is guaranteed, and that way they're able to strike that. But everybody in the community may not want the same level of service, or by internet, or by phone service, or security. So
Are we the first in LVI?
actually, all 5 expire on the same date except for Barney Lake, the 6th date.
So you've negotiated or talked to them, so it's the same thing?
We haven't, this is my second one. I spoke with Harvey Cedars last week. We had the same form. 15 years ago, we actually negotiated all 5 towns together. And this time it's separate.
Why? It seems more sensible.
I didn't set it up. 15 years ago, the attorney for a couple of the towns reached out to the other municipalities and set up a joint negotiation for all. Now, obviously, because you're different size populations, grant money is based on population, so that's changed. So it changes between the community. But this time around, I guess the decision was made that it would be individual negotiations.
Well, it's really not a negotiation, you say fixed rates.
Well, it's a negotiation on the amount of time you're willing to give us, and the grant that we're willing to give you based on the time.
And the clerks are communicating, so we know
Yes.
we're all negotiating.
And what I will do, I will send to the clerk and for review by the governing body as well as us, and then we can have kick off negotiations. And I'll have that in
It's interesting. Yeah, I have another person in the audience who would like to speak.
There's nothing, it's a real good hockey player.
Name and address.
William Barris, we're living with us. Can we get our Comcast service fixed? Our Wi-Fi is horrible. Our Comcast service,
If I get your address, I'll have somebody down there.
and it's unbelievable. The whale drops out all the time. We're off and on every 15 minutes with Wi-Fi in my house. It's the same problem. It's just-
I have great service, I have to say.
This is the guy's here.
Yeah.
It's- I'll give him my program.
I'll give you. And if anyone has any service issues, they can always send the clerk an email and they should get the email.
Go right to you, Rob. We can put your email
There you
address
go.
on our website, and you might not wish we had it.
You can absolutely.
Okay, we'll do that. Anybody else like to speak before we close for public comment? This has been interesting. Anybody else have any advice or questions? Okay, so I'll close the floor to public comment.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Look forward to working with you on this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gleason.
Let me just say again, for those of you standing in the back, there are seats up in the front. So we prefer you sit down than stand, so if you would take a seat, that would be nice. Okay, all right. Sorry, I'm just watching everybody get themselves situated here. Okay, so we're now on to the ordinances.
Ordinance 2019-14, an ordinance for the Borough of Beach Haven authorizing a financial agreement pursuant to the 5-year exemption and abatement law pertaining to Block 167, Lot 4, 500 North Bay Avenue, final reading.
This is the final reading, so it is open for public discussion. If anybody would like to come up and speak to this, this is your moment. Anybody that wants to come up and speak to this ordinance?
Did you repeat that? I was talking to that.
Do you want to speak?
Most likely I do. I'm gonna ask you to repeat it. I was talking to the Comcast guy.
This is ordinance 2019-14, an ordinance of the Borough of Beach Haven authorizing a financial agreement pursuant to the 5-year exemption and abatement law pertaining to Block 167, Lot 4, 500 North Bay Avenue.
I'm good.
All right. Therefore, nobody wants to speak, I'll close the floor. And do I have a motion to approve ordinance 1914?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowmiller?
Yes.
Mr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Maskell?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Ordinance 2019-15C, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Administrative Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, to provide for the establishment of a community garden in the area of Nelson Avenue. Final reading.
This is the final reading. If anybody has gone down and looked at what's going on in Nelson Avenue, it's very exciting. And I think hopefully we'll be able to increase the number of these gardens. Right now there's 10. Would anybody like to come forward and speak to the community garden ordinance? All right.
Excuse me, I got new glasses, I'm just, and you guys look pretty good. At least the girls do.
They make us look better, huh?
State your name and address for the record.
At least the girls. Michael Beeler, Beach Haven. I think, I got the PDF of the garden, I think it's a great idea. First come, first serve, I don't like, because it's only 10. There should be a lottery. You know, to give everybody an equal chance, opposed to the eager beavers that are right there when you open.
Well, we hope to add more that, we have a limited budget, so this is, maybe get a little grant money.
Okay, what about, after the season's over and, fall vegetables with, covering over it?
Well,
You need to be
really discussed
educated.
this, but at the community garden that's on Pearl Street, a lot of people grow fall and winter
Sure.
vegetables there. So if you have the garden, there's no reason you couldn't put in a crop for the fall.
Well, I think it's a good idea. Maybe we could work on a dog park next.
Yep, okay, thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak to the community garden ordinance? Okay, I close the floor. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Mrs. Bellmiller.
Yes.
Mr. Lynch.
Yes.
Mr. Maskell.
Yes.
Mayor Davis.
Yes.
Ordinance 2019-16C, an ordinance amending Chapter 204, Water of the Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, establishing an inspection and fee of corrective action after conviction of tampering of water equipment. Final reading.
Would anybody like to come forward and speak to the water tampering ordinance? What this does is people that tamper with their meters and try to bypass the meter, which has happened, will be fined, quite a substantial fine. Would anybody like to come forward and speak to this? No, so therefore I close the floor. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve 16C.
Second.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Mrs. Bellmiller.
Yes.
Mr. Lynch.
Yes.
Mr. Maskell.
Yes.
Mayor Davis.
Yes.
Ordinance 2019-17, ordinance of the Borough of Beach Haven adopting an amendment to the redevelopment plan for Block 129, Lot 5, Block 141, Lots 3, 3.01, 4, 4.01, Block 143, Lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, Block 144, Lots 4, 5, Block 148, Lot 7, Block 148.01, Lots 1 through 6, and Block 162, Lots 7.02, 7.03, within the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending the redevelopment plan for Mercer Management, Morrison's, to allow for increased height. This is final reading.
The purpose of this ordinance is to amend the current redevelopment plan for specific blocks and lots within that overall area, all those blocks and lots that Sherry just read off. Not all of them are impacted by this ordinance amendment. Those that are specifically within the Morrison's Marina area. It's block 148.01, lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, block 148, lot 7, block 162, lot 7.02 and 7.03. Back last year in November, an ordinance was adopted amending the original redevelopment plan. And that original redevelopment plan adopted the underlying zoning. No ordinance requirements were changed under that. That adoption of the underlying zoning was done so that we could enter into an agreement with the potential developer, have them post an escrow to cover the costs associated with negotiations, development of a plan, so that borough residents were not bearing the costs associated with that. We entered into an agreement with Mercer Management, and through that agreement and beginning negotiation, presentations that were made to mayor and council, made to the public, and made to the land use board, the initial amendment allowing for a two-story hotel with up to 102 rooms, the restaurant reconstruction, that was adopted in November of 2018. After that, there was a lot of public comment with regard to views. Litigation ensued with regard to having obstructed views, potential location of the hotel along Pennsylvania Avenue. And a suggestion was made by a member of the public that possibly the council could consider a three-story hotel, reduce the size of the footprint of the hotel, open up some open space, and protect some of those views from 2nd Street. And we requested Mercer Management to prepare some renderings and take a look at that. And they obliged, held a number of public forums, one specifically over at Bonnet Island where approximately 100 people attended from the community. And then other presentations were made before the Land Use Board, Mayor and Council, and overwhelming support for the three-story version of the project rather than the two-story hotel project. So that leads us to where we are tonight. Mayor and Council introduced this ordinance allowing for a maximum height of a three-story hotel not to exceed 44 feet to the top of the hotel roof, with an elevator tower not to exceed a maximum height of 45 feet 9 inches. That is the only change that we are, that Mayor and Council are contemplating for this ordinance amendment. All of the other requirements of the First Amendment, as well as the underlying zoning. So the underlying zoning governs your parking, your traffic, your drainage. I'm sorry, that's not correct. The CAFRA requirements will cover the drainage. But all of the other site plan requirements are covered by your underlying zoning. So at site plan submission, things like traffic and your environmental impact, and those things are going to be discussed at that time. This pertains to the proposal that was made to Mayor and Council to the public. The Land Use Board did act at their last meeting and adopted Special Resolution 2019-04 and recommended that the council adopt this amendment as it be consistent with the borough's master plan. And the intent there to engage tourists for a longer period of time during your year to boost the economy. Through that resolution just a bit so that you understand, for those of you who weren't able to attend that meeting, one of the major objectives in your master plan is to support revitalization plans within this marine commercial district and enhance economic and pedestrian activity and encourage a longer tourism season. Also, there were, in the master plan, they expressed concerns for reduction of vacationers and day trippers because a lot of homeowners are not renting their properties any longer. They're utilizing them through the season. So that having a hotel used near the marina, it allows for the longer tourism season, brings day trippers, brings more tourists to the area. And then we also have the economic vitality while protecting and maintaining a coastal lifestyle and balancing business with residential development with environmental protection. and also maintaining your marina. So mayor and council have been working diligently to ensure that this project is as much about the marina and maintaining the use and operation of the marina and improving that for the residents and keeping the marina a public marina. So this project will not operate a restaurant and a hotel and not a marina. All three have to be operated at the same time. One cannot be closed or shut down, and the marina will remain a public marina. That said, this proposal went before the land use board, as I said, and they did recommend that this 3-story proposal with the height that I mentioned this amendment be adopted by mayor and council. We do have renderings here because Mr. Vernon and the Mercer management team are here, and they have this information available for those of you who have not had an opportunity at the land use board to see what this looks like, so that you can get a general sense of what the 3-story hotel will look like. The open space that's now going to be available with this increase in height will allow for underground cisterns and a greener, more sustainable operation of the hotel. And at this time, I think Mayor Councilman can give other statements that you'd like to make before you open to the public, or have the renderings put up somewhere.
I think we should do the renderings first. And I do want to just mention that we don't have the actual architecture that exactly the way it's going to look, because it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to get those plans together. So this is a concept plan. Most developers don't want to spend the money on the final plans until they know they have permission to go ahead with the project, since it's a terribly expensive procedure. Am I correct on that?
Yes, and to that end, though, in the development of those architectural renderings, we do have an architectural advisory committee, and Mr. Vernon's team has in fact been working with them. And he has taken their comments back in regard to the 3-story proposal versus the 2-story proposal. They believe that this 3-story proposal is much nicer and does not look like a train car that blocks the entire corridor. And this got their support, this 3-story model and the renderings. So, but again, that their goal is not complete. They're going to continue to monitor and to provide input with regard to that. But that's all further down the line with the site plans, and there will be a redevelopment agreement with Mr. Vernon's group, Mercer Management, where they will be obligated to maintain the marina operation, the boat lift, the winter storage, and fuel, the depth of the marina to keep it operational. And public access to the marina will be increased through this proposal, and all of that will be covered in the redevelopment agreement, which is a requirement for any site plan approval. So at the land use board, they will have to present their traffic experts, and again, and you'll have an opportunity at that time, if this gets approved for this 3-story ordinance gets approved, that will be the applicable zoning. If it does not get approved, then the 2-story, 35-foot, longer expansive proposal is already approved.
And so there are steps beyond this step in this project, but this step would basically give Mr. Vernon the green light to go ahead and start to put more money into his plans. And again, it doesn't mean that we still wouldn't be listening to input from the public and the architectural review committee as to the final piece as how this building is going to look. Because we really do want it to be impressive. We'd like it to be something that's very special. So I guess at this point, will ask for the renderings and then, oh, I'm sorry. I hear myself so loudly because I have this thing. We'll ask to see the renderings and then we'll open this up to the public comment after the renderings. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, members of the council. Mr. Beach, thank you so much for your time. I'd like to introduce my architect, Fred Greer. We've been working on this project for almost a year and a half now, and back and forth with council and in many different groups. We've met a lot of you on the road and invited folks and went to visit some of you guys at your museums and your houses. So thank you for that time. It was a collaboration of many different people and experts and folks that had a lot of good input on what we think we have as a great project to move forward. So that said, I'd like to introduce Craig Greeley, who really is a big part of our company and has really pushed the envelope with some architectural content and some really details, and hopefully details of Beach Haven that we can bring out in this great project that we're excited to bring forward to you tonight. Thank you.
Could you speak in the microphone? Choose one, unfortunately. Anyone, doesn't matter.
I'm just going to make it brief. What these renderings depict is what we come up with for the final proposal. We have the two buildings representing the 3 stories here, the open space that we were talking about between what is going to be remaining as the...
Is there any way to lift the drawing? Because you can't see anything.
I wish I could.
Yeah.
That a white in the building?
I don't
Want to volunteer?
We'll be back.
Like up on there you go. Great. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Right there, better.
So the rendering depicts then what we're talking about in the 3-story hotel down 2nd Street. The open space that was created by doing the 3-story units, and then leaving the ship store on the corner and the adjacent boat workshop that's there currently. And I think as far as, I'll leave it open to questions at this point for the town, since this is really about the height.
Yes, it is. It's about
Nancy, do you have any questions from council before you open the floor, or are you opening the floor?
No, we should probably have any questions from council first, and then we'll open the floor. Anybody in council want to ask a question?
The only question I have is,
Use the mic, please.
I'm sorry,
Use the mic.
the only question I have is it's not about the height. I'm making sure that Pennsylvania Avenue remains open for parking and for storage. Can we make sure that that's in the agreement?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, I want to be sure.
that's in the agreement, but
That's what.
that still has to be, we have a lot of work to do. Anybody else on council? I have a question.
So initially, I was under the impression that 2nd Street was the only option to put the hotel, but in light of new information from another CAFRA expert, that Pennsylvania Avenue is an option. So can you talk about that? Because I'm getting multiple viewpoints here.
Good evening. My name is Maeve Desmond. I'm a project manager with Coastal Environmental Consulting LLC. We are representing Mercer Management Development Corporation and have done extensive research on compliance with CAFRA, specifically working with the project team in developing a project which we believe complies with the coastal zone management rules. I will say that we attended a pre-application meeting with the DEP about a year ago, in July of 2018, to discuss specifically the concepts on along 2nd Street, and that was met with a great deal of positive feedback. I would disagree that certainly orienting the building along Pennsylvania is not, it is an option, but we believe we have the DEP's agreement that the best solution is to orient it along Pennsylvania, Northwest 2nd Street, so that the existing marina uses can be consolidated and really most efficiently preserved in the portion along Pennsylvania, if that makes sense. Could I offer any further clarification?
So the Pennsylvania Avenue is an option.
It's always an option. I mean, these rules are not black and
Because I
white.
was under the impression that at that meeting that you were at with the DEP, that they were recommending 2nd Street because Pennsylvania was not an option whatsoever.
No, that's absolutely not what happened.
Because Pennsylvania is a lot wider than 2nd Street.
Well, and that's exactly, I think, to that point, it's the most, it appears to be the best place to keep the marina operations in place. It will help the marina use to be preserved because it will allow the marina to function most similarly to the way that it functions today. So our position, and we believe that DEP agrees with our position based on the feedback from the pre-application meeting, is that siting the hotel along 2nd Street is the best place.
I have a question, so as well. My main concern is keeping the marina as an open marina to the public that can be utilized by anybody that wants to keep a boat there, the charter fishing group, so on. When a year ago, or over a year ago, a lot of people kept saying, oh, marinas in New Jersey are protected, you have to keep a marina. And so I called the guy that was head of the CAFRA in Ocean County, and he told me at that time that the marinas, I mean, you can't fill a marina in or anything like that, but you can't tell the owner what to do with it. So that if somebody wanted to buy Morrison's and condo out all the slips and build some condos along the edges of it, they could do that. They don't have to make it, they don't have to keep it as an actual working marina with lifts and gas docks and all that stuff. Am I correct on that? Because there's a lot of misconception. I think people feel that there's no way anybody can do anything with that marina but keep it as an open marina.
No, I would say that that's not correct. The reason is that this project will require a CAFRA individual permit, which requires that the applicant demonstrate compliance with numerous policies of the coastal zone management rules. Those are the regulations that implement CAFRA. One of the most key components of the coastal zone management rules, in terms of policy compliance, is the filled waters edge rule. And that is one that we discussed specifically with New Jersey DEP staff when we attended the pre-application meeting. I would say that the main purpose of that policy is to accommodate new coastal development while preserving existing water-dependent uses, such as marinas. It's intended exactly for situations like this, so that the development can't completely eliminate the marina. It has to not only maintain and preserve the water-dependent uses of the marina, but also upgrade and improve it to the extent practical. So that is exactly what this application will have to go through, demonstrating compliance with that policy and many others once we file the CAFRA individual permit application with the DEP.
So that's the long way saying the marina has to stay by CAFRA.
That's correct.
So by saying the marina has to stay by CAFRA, does that mean that the marina has to stay and maintain the big lift that they have and maintain the gas docks and maintain all those amenities?
I mean, that gets to the heart of policy and the rationale in that policy in the coastal zone management rules says that the marina uses have to be maintained and improved where practical. So yes, I would say that those uses need to be maintained and kept in place as much as is feasible. And that's something that will be, we'll get into the details once the application is being reviewed by the DEP, but they will definitely scrutinize that particular aspect of the application.
So if you're quoting the filled waters edge, how can you possibly use the 100-foot setback beyond the mean high water line on 2nd Street versus there is no 100 feet there?
Yeah, it's a complex policy. One of the aspects of the policy says that the waterfront portion of the Field Water's Edge, which is an area within 100 feet of the mean high water line, should be for water-dependent uses. But the rule goes on to say that a mix of water-dependent and water-oriented uses can be approved within the Field Water's Edge, within the waterfront portion of the Field Water's Edge, when it's considered appropriate, when those uses can coexist, and essentially when the water-dependent use will not be diminished. So it is an acceptable use in the waterfront portion of the Field Water's Edge. And again, we also discussed that with the New Jersey DEP staff at the pre-application meeting.
Is this still subject to a lengthy process with the DEP?
Absolutely.
So anything we do here is still conditioned on their approval.
Absolutely.
And that would include things like runoff and all that sort of thing.
Yes, it
All
will
the
be.
environmental factors that currently worry me. Okay. Any other questions from council? Okay, thank you. Sure. Anybody else on council will ask a question before I open it to the public? Okay, then I'm opening the comments to the public, and would you please state your name and address and try to keep your comments to around 3 minutes.
Tom Kelly, 133 Fifth Street and 1 South Bay Avenue near Beach Haven. My wife owns and operates a business here in Beach Haven. She probably employs more full-time associates with healthcare benefits than anybody in Beach Haven other than the borough itself. For us, sustainability, in order to operate a business year-round, it's almost critical that we have additional year-round businesses and establishments to help fortify what we're missing during the high season. It's next to impossible to have a realistic cash flow in the off-season in this town. And the addition of another year-round business is incredibly important to us. So we wholeheartedly support the 3-story version of this building. And in addition, we need to keep in mind that Beach Haven has to compete against other seashore resorts also. And if we can add 102 rooms that's state-of-the-art and draw additional visitors to our town, it will add to the vibrance and it'll keep our ratables down in the winter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Keith Davis. I'm an attorney. I represent several residents on 2nd Street. Ken Goldman, Judy Goodlife, who are here tonight. Bill Moreno, Sharon Marie Davis, Dennis, and Christine Dents. They all live on 2nd Street and will be impacted by the development that would result if council were to approve of this ordinance tonight. And I rise tonight to respectfully ask you to table this ordinance. We believe that you enact this ordinance tonight, you're going to be taking a bad ordinance that's already on your books that permits a 2-story hotel in this area. You're going to make it worse because you're going to allow that structure to go to 3 stories. And there's no controls in this ordinance that's before you tonight as to the scale, the size, the intensity, the parking, drainage issues, traffic, all the site plan issues that we respectfully submit should be addressed by this governing body now. Not later. Trust us, we'll put it in the redevelopment agreement. Trust us, we'll deal with it at site plan before the planning board. This is a very significant project that is being introduced into a section of your community that is foreign to that section of this community right now. It is primarily restaurants, the marina, and residential uses that are going to be very much impacted by the number of people that are going to be coming in to this part of your community. This ought to be a conditional use ordinance. This is the same message I gave to this governing body last fall when I asked you to sit down with our client and our professional team. Councilwoman, you raised the ACT report that does debunk this myth that was going around in the community that this hotel cannot be developed on Pennsylvania Avenue under the CAFRA rules. By Mr. Vernon's consultant's own admission here tonight before you, that is false. That is not true. Pennsylvania Avenue is a viable option for this development site. My clients aren't opposed to a hotel. Okay, we made that clear last year. I'll repeat that this evening. But we are very much concerned about the size of the hotel, about the location of the hotel, about this concept. That's all it is a concept. There's nothing requiring Mr. Vernon and his development team to build what's before you based upon the ordinance that you're going to potentially take action on here this evening. You ought to have those conditions built into that ordinance. We think you ought to sit down with our planner, John McDonough, who we've engaged, Janetta Dix, our environmental expert, with your professional team. I know your planner's not here tonight, yet you're going to take action on an ordinance that we submit is contrary to what your zone plan calls for. Heard a lot tonight about protecting the marina. We understand that, we respect it. But there's nothing in this conditional in this redevelopment plan ordinance that requires this developer to maintain the marina. If that is such an important planning goal in this community, doesn't it make sense as a condition of having this hotel built that that developer be obligated to run a full-time, full-service marina that's open to the public? It's not there. It's not in the ordinance. It's not in black and white. We consider all evening and talk about what Mr. Vernon wants to do. But it's just talk. The ordinance that's before you is a law. In order to make sure that this is a responsible development, we submit those requirements, including protecting the marina, ought to be within this ordinance. It's something that ought to be preserved to make sure that the developer lives up to what he is saying. And that's this town's protection. That's what would protect not only my clients, but everybody in the community. And we submit that there's a better location for this hotel. And it is on Pennsylvania Avenue. And we've heard statements before that shouldn't be on Pennsylvania Avenue. The only thing I ask tonight is before you take action on this ordinance, on behalf of my clients, I believe they are deserving of an explanation as to why this hotel should be on 2nd Street and not on Pennsylvania. I think they need, if there's a reason why the governing body wants it on 2nd, not on Pennsylvania, and you won't take action on an amendment to this ordinance to require the developer to put it on Pennsylvania Avenue, I think my clients are going to be impacted by their views being obstructed by this development, why that's going to occur, and why their views are less important than the views of those property owners on the other side of Pennsylvania Avenue. Okay? They are there. They're going to feel this. They're going to see this hotel that is not now going to be 2 stories, it's going to be 3 stories. And there's nothing inhibiting this developer from protecting their view corridors in this ordinance. He can build this hotel all the way down to the water within the CAFRA regulations and go 3 stories, 44 feet in height, not including the elevator shaft, to the top of the roof. That's much worse than the position we were in and the discussion we were having last fall. There was some, I didn't have the opportunity to scheduling conflict. I wasn't able to come to the planning board when the reconciliation hearing took place on the redevelopment ordinance and your master plan. But I understand some representations may have been made that, well, we're going to attach this concept plan as an exhibit to the redevelopment plan ordinance. So what? There are dimensions on this concept plan. We're not, I understand. I do a lot of development work across the state. And I understand that developers don't want to spend a lot of money up front, hard engineering plans before they know that the use is going to be permitted. We're not asking that to happen. We just want to know what the bulk standards are going to be. The response is, oh, whatever the underlying ordinance says. Well, the underlying ordinance doesn't permit hotels. How can you impose bulk standards for single-family homes and other uses in the underlying zoning district on a hotel use that's completely foreign to that very zoning district. You ought to have specially tailored bulk standards for this hotel use before you take action on this ordinance tonight. Attaching a concept plan as an exhibit doesn't do it. It needs to be in black and white. This is an opportunity to bring in potentially a development to the community to better everyone. But you need to do it the right way. We respectfully submit. It needs to be done responsibly. Give us the opportunity to sit down, to talk with your staff, to meet with the developer and his team, have a meeting so we can go over this collectively, to come up with a series of standards that hopefully will benefit everybody in this community. So we ask you to table the ordinance tonight and give us that opportunity. Thank you.
Steve Steiner, 521 Amber Street here in Beach Haven. I will try to be much more concise than the last 13-minute speaker. Beach Haven, first of all, has always been a town of hotels. Long before I came here, the Ingleside and the Baldwin hotels were enormous hotels, and Beach Haven is about tourism. Like the first speaker this evening, yes, it would be great to have another 100 rooms of people. Beach Haven is maybe the entire island is maybe 8,000 to 10,000 people in the off-season and over 150,000 during the season. Do we really think that the 250 people at capacity, 2.5 per, an average of 2.5 per room, is really going to affect the traffic as much as everybody seems to be fearing? No, I don't think so at all. I think that 250 people are going to be the kind of people that are going to invest in our community, just as Mr. Vernon is trying to invest in our community. And you know what? What we've got here, Second Street, Pennsylvania, not in my backyard. NIMBY, you know that? That's what's going on here. Not in my backyard. Leave my view alone, and you hurt those people in Pennsylvania because I live on 2nd Street. Well, you know what? The people that are your clients, sir, who just spoke, where are you? I lost you. There you are, thank you. I believe all three of those houses moved in within the last year or two, and they had a view of an empty lot. Did they really think that empty lot was going to be there in perpetuity? I live on Amber Street, and there was a little one-story cottage that I could see over from my balcony to see the bay. And you know what's there now? It's a double McMansion. And you know what? That's what happens with development. You're going to have it happen. And you know what? This is really, really good for the businesses in Beach Haven, and really, really good to bring a world-class hotel to our community. And because your views, and you know what, those 3 houses that are being obstructed, they've got like 14 balconies on them. You think the top one might be able to give you enough of a view? Maybe, I don't know. But that lot was not going to be an empty lot in perpetuity, and you put your houses there, and somebody else comes in and wants to do something wonderful for Beach Haven, and you want to move it to obstruct on Pennsylvania Avenue and hurt those people so that your views stay. No, that's not the way it works.
John Harden, 211 2nd Street. Chris, 2 questions and a suggestion. One question is, can you put up the photo that has a restaurant? And it looks like, by sight, that a restaurant is probably understating what it's going to be. It looks more like a venue, conference center. You showed it, might be right here. Could you give me the occupancy
full occupancy, maximum occupancy of that building?
So the restaurant will see approximately 400. is right.
400, and so then I think, Steve, you said 200 and...
So it's 150 more. Okay.
Okay. No, it's 400 plus, assuming everybody in the hotel is going to the dinner. Hopefully you want to attract other people that are on hotel guests.
A good portion of them, yes, will be patronizing the restaurant and also staying in the hotel.
So here's one concern, and I have another question on scale in a second, is you pretty much defined how you would find parking for the marina and the hotel previously. My question is, where are you going to find parking for the additional people at a restaurant? And I'm just going to go to recent history and Steve from 2nd Street.
Sure.
Okay, anybody else here from 2nd Street? Thank you. We approved an extension on a restaurant. We didn't look at the ordinance to say maybe we should get some additional parking. The net parking we allowed them was, I think, 3 or 4. They gave 5 spots, but took away 3 public spots. 2nd Street, and the season hasn't started, and not just 2nd Street, has been traffic and a parking nightmare so far. Not to mention the trash, which is not Jay's responsibility, it's other restaurants. So my question is, where are you gonna park those people for the restaurant? The second question I'll let you answer, Walt, you take up the other picture you had up, and one of the suggestions I made in an email this week is, why are we looking at this project, which is the biggest project probably ever in Beach Haven, and certainly the most sensitive, without having some scaling? So how tall is your hotel there, Chris?
44 feet.
Okay, so look at the scale of 2nd Street next to you. That is considerably wider than the actual street, right? And so my question to you is, why aren't you requiring a scale so we can see what the scale of this building is? My last suggestion was, and you know, this is an interesting one because there's so many different stakeholders in this situation, right? We have Jane and her family, and I absolutely believe they should have the right to get monetize their equity in the lands they've held for so long. I think it would be amazing, okay? Then you have the environmentalists, and you know, Nancy, you said you were an environmentalist. The only thing I've seen we've done, I mean, not the only thing, the most recent thing is plastic bags. That was a laggard approach. Why don't we take a stand here and say, Catherine, other law, and say, don't build within 100 feet of that bulkhead. So why do we consider this a vote before we even do that, before we even know that, if you want to be an environmentalist? Don't just say it, we got to act it, all right? And then you got the residents, right? And I am concerned about traffic, and I know it benefits your business, but I'm concerned about traffic and parking, my kids' safety, my grandkids' safety, and stuff like that. And I do think this is going to exacerbate it, Chris, unless you have a terrific answer for that restaurant on parking, right? And again, I'm not saying it's not going to be on the streets. You got the two, at least one lawsuit I hear, there might be another lawsuit based on the people on the south side of that situation. So we've got some legal fees we're going to be incurring on this, right? And it's going to obviously, you know, so what if you considered all of the stakeholders, okay, and said, let me build that hotel on the Pennsylvania Avenue side, do 102 rooms, first-class hotel. First-class hotel. That property is vacant. I think Jane may even own it. But at some point it's going to be built. So it's not going to be an issue for people on 3rd Street in their view. Move the warehouse or the repair thing and the marine store. You originally were going to get rid of that. Move that to the west side of the property, which puts it right with the marina. Okay. And then you satisfy 4 constituencies versus creating a situation where you're happy, certainly Jane's happy, but there's a lot of other conflict in the community. Okay, I'll leave it here.
If I may try, answer some of those questions.
Yes, yeah.
So, we've met over the last year with many different groups, the neighbors on 2nd Street, and we tried to remodel the building, open up some sightline corridors to preserve some of the views. We also, you have to remember, there's a permit in place currently that allows us to rebuild the current old restaurant in its place, the old Morrison's restaurant. That could be, we could build next month. We file our building permits, it's approved by Capitol already, and that's a 400-person restaurant that like the old restaurant. It's already approved. The location of the marina and the buildings in the hotel, I get that. We angst for months on trying to figure out the best spot for all those involved in the community. We met with the marina owners, the neighbors, the business groups, and we wanted to bring as much input into this as possible. And this is our plan that we'd like to represent, and here's why. The continuity of the marina is very important. We want to keep the function of the travel lift, the boat owners, the fishermen, the folks that are coming off the street to visit the marina, quote marina, visit their boats, in one area for safety and security, and to have practical reasons why to do that. And that's basically on this side of Pennsylvania Avenue. And also, most importantly, our neighbor who's been there for many years is the Tuna Club. That's a big proponent of keeping as many people happy as we possibly can. And we're not going to get everyone. I grant it. We're trying to take everyone's concerns and roll it out to this project. So the idea was we would be able to have some type of provided parking shared, where it's valet or organized. The dynamic of having some type of facility like this in your community, a hotel does wonderful things if it's properly run and maintained by a group that's really vested in the community, because it becomes a meeting group and kind of a nesting area and economic driving force of that year-round business. All your community groups, your any civic groups, your social functions. If we do this right, this is where you want to come off-season, Mother's Day, different types of uses. It becomes a perfect spot for that. So the hotel on this side, basically it works because we retain the old chip store. And we're going to turn this into front porches, flower boxes, shutters, authentic. It's going to look like a historical Beach Haven house is our model. And that's an amenity space for the marina users, as well as the restaurant and the hotel guests as well. And there's a reason why this is all in one line. Because you can traverse from the hotel back to the restaurant off-season, out of the weather, and covered. So it's basically, there's a reason why we connected to the hotel. It's our food and beverage element, it's some of our hospitality element, it's where people will go to just meet, and it needs to be under one area, if you will, where it's all connected. We tried numerous times to get this to work, and after meeting with DEP, we felt in our best interest that this shadow of the ship store and shadow of the restaurant would be parallel and would be most suited for the operation of the marina, the operation of the hotel, but also for reducing the sight lines for many of the folks in Beach Haven. Our idea is to come down this and just really turn it into a cottage event where you see the softer country inn model, wrapping porches. It welcomes you to a softer resort. And then in through here you have a garden. And then through here you have the three-story structure where the bones are of the hotel that connects to the restaurant. So you can go from hallway to restaurant to the fitness room to those other amenities that are, it's critical for the hotel to thrive and attract the customers to this kind of venue. And I can tell you, the folks that we're bringing in the hotel venue, it's awesome. We were up there last weekend at one of our other venues from New England, from Boston, from Western Pennsylvania, and they heard us just through social media. And it brings a whole new caliber of folks that maybe haven't discovered Long Beach Island or Beach Haven like we have, that we might be able to share with them our little gem and bring in new people that can either buy homes, come shopping here. Most importantly, for us, turn it into a family destination for generations to come, that every year they come back for a week or for 3 days. The hotel and the transient guest has changed drastically. They don't want to book 6 months out in February for a house anymore, possibly. What they want to do is call a month ahead and say, if you have anything for a Thursday, Friday night, I have a wedding, or I have to visit friends, or I want to go visit someone, and it has to be ready for them. And that said, that's kind of our model where it's proven and it's worked out well for us so far. So I'm sorry to go so long, but I just want to kind of try to cover as many as I could.
Thank you, Chris J.
Jay Crennemer, 509 Dock Road. I'm a licensed supervision professional planner, retired. Been in this community for a few decades. And welcome to Demonstration 117. I want to first say, I think one of the hearings about strictly the heights increase with 3 stories. I want to support that. I recommended it several months ago. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's the right thing to do. The other thing I want to talk about is very briefly, there's some publications that have come out to the community at large. They've cited my restaurant, my new restaurant, and I object to the misinformation, misstatements that purport to be fact. It bothers me a great deal. They said about parking. We did not ask for any variances for Station 117. We meet the loading requirements, we meet the parking requirements. We, at our own expense, went on a restripe with county approval of Bay Avenue to add 4 more parking spaces than were there before. We tried to do our part. We met the ordinance requirements. We did not ask for variances. The other thing that cited about us was that we took advantage of this rehabilitation designation to get some tax rebates. And I think it was absolutely wonderful. We're going to get, I think, $19,000 in tax rebates. And guess what? We spent $67,000 to get them. We put brick sidewalks in from 2nd Street down to Bay Ave, down to Center Street, to a few other amenities, so we can get $19,000 back. So the deal I made there. This council, they're really stupid. How could they have permitted that to happen? But the last thing I would say is that there's been a lot of good comments here that really belong the language for the site plan, and I think that it would make sense for the developer to take another look at putting the buildings along Pennsylvania Avenue. I think most of the things he said could be addressed, relative to how the marina works and how you get access out to the restaurant. I don't see anything wrong with asking him to come back to you with, just as he did with going from 2 to 3 stories, and looking at perhaps maybe going all in Pennsylvania, especially having went to good food. Thank you.
Thank
Excuse me, sir. Sir, your attorney has already spoken for you.
I just think I have a constitutional right to speak.
Mr. Gibbons, if you're going to assert that, I'm just going to state for the record, just because my client has decided to engage me to aggressively represent his interests does not mean, as a voter, as a resident, and a taxpayer in this community, that he gives up his First Amendment right to address his elected officials.
Sir, you stated at the beginning of your comments that you were here on his behalf.
Are you saying that Mr. Goldman does not have the right to address the governing body?
I'm saying that you stated you were here on his behalf, and so if there are other people in the public who would like to speak, I think it's important for us to hear from everyone. But, counsel?
I would like to hear from everyone, but if Mr. Goldman can keep his comments at 3 minutes, I'd say we
Sure, I'll do that. I'll be happy to do that. At the land use board, that's
State your name and address for the record, please.
Kenneth Goldman, 505E, Dock Road, Beach. A voting resident, I might add. At the land use board, a resident came in and asked for 18 inches above the mandatory was at 35 feet, so the limit, the height limit. Asked for 18 inches on an approximately 5 foot by 5 foot section, so that they could have an elevator that went up to their roof. That individual was unanimously denied 18 inches. After that, we had a corporation come in and request to go up to, is it 44 feet? And actually 45.9 feet for the elevator shaft. And that was unanimously approved. So I just question the logic of that. Why the residents don't have some precedence over the corporations. I just throw that out. I believe CAFRA has an ordinance, and you have a CAFRA expert, maybe you can hear from that expert. But when you're building along and taking up sight lines, there's a requirement to leave 30% of the existing sight line in place. The sight line, that street is approximately 450 feet in length. The open space is approximately 50 feet in width. So I don't think 1/9 is 30%. The other thing I'd like to point out is that right now, as I live across the street, there's an entrance into the marina on 2nd Street. There's an entrance in, and the boats that are along that area along 2nd, all the cars park behind the boats, so that they can do work on the boats and so forth. If this hotel is on 2nd, they won't have that opportunity. So that's being taken away from them. If it will move to Pennsylvania, and we are not opposed to the hotel, as our attorney said, but if it were moved to Pennsylvania, there's plenty of room for it, and actually there's plenty of room for it without blocking any existing homes on Pennsylvania from their sight lines. So I don't know if, Mr. Vernon, is there a contractual requirement why you can't put it on Pennsylvania Avenue?
We tried that numerous times, couldn't get it functioning to be as efficient as it is.
Did you try it with the 3-story?
We did.
It seems to me, in looking at this rendering, that there's plenty of room along Pennsylvania. And I know there are no houses on Pennsylvania until after, is that 3rd Street? There's no houses on that. So, that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Kim Guadano. I represent REW Moore Whale, 529 Dock Road. I would be the south side you mentioned before. I've been retained to represent them in litigation. Should it have to be followed? I don't think it has to be. I have a couple of questions before we get started, since the height is the issue. Have we done any surveys on any other building that's 45 feet within, I don't know, pick 200 yards of the proposal? My client's building is 32 to 35 feet. So we have no idea how this rendering really looks, because we don't have the scale of the other buildings in the area, unless I missed that in the presentation. That's the first question. The second question is, when we referred to the meeting that you had in July of 2018, the CAFRA meeting, do you have anything in writing that represents what happened at that meeting, who was at that meeting, what representations were made at that meeting? I'd like to see that. I think we all have a right to see it if we're going to refer to it as evidence of CAFRA and DEP's consent to a project of this size. Then, I also heard the expert talk about CAFRA and how the CAFRA is complex, and I can't disagree with that at all. But there's one thing that's not complex, and that is that whatever you put in that space has to be water-oriented in some way. So my question to their expert is, how is a hotel water-oriented in any way? I'm also going to ask a fourth question, and that is, I do know that your CAFRA permit was agreed to. My understanding, though, is that that CAFRA permit was to rebuild the restaurant that was there, which was 132 seats, not the number of seats that was quoted to us just a minute ago. Finally, I'm going to kind of rely on my experience as the head of travel and tourism in New Jersey from 2010 to 2018. I know that tourism at the Jersey Shore represents about $20 billion worth of business. I know why people come to the shore. I know people want to go to come to the shore on both ends of the season. And one of the ways you get them to do that is by making sure that the town they go to see remains the town that they want to live in. That it remains and keeps and maintains the character that it had before. And what we've heard from Ms. Gibbons is that we don't actually know what the building is going to look like. I think the quote I wrote down was, we don't know what it will look like. It will not look like a train car. I think our concerns, and I join in all of the representations made by Mr. Davis on behalf of his clients, I think our concern is that it may not look like a train car when we get done, but we don't know that it won't look like a cruise ship. And if it looks like a cruise ship, is that what you really want to see here in Beach Haven? So I think we have a lot of unanswered questions, like what are the other heights? What did the DEP actually say? Where is it written? What is the CAFRA? How is this consistent with a water-oriented project? What did the CAFRA permit that you actually got say? And then finally, how do you make a decision based on what you've already heard, given all the questions that we've already heard? Thank you.
Thank you. Next. We've got you and then you.
Okay, so you're next, please.
Don Kulo, 116 8th Street. My question is about parking. Somebody asked that question and I don't think it was answered. Summer weekends, as an alcoholic, I have trouble getting to the shed. If I look at this hotel, let's say there's 100 cars at the hotel, 100 cars at the restaurant. Let's assume that most of the help at the restaurant doesn't live on Long Beach Island and commutes from Little Egg Harbor or Tuckerton. How many cars are that? Plus the cars of the people at the marina. My guess is that's 300 cars. Is there enough parking on a big summer weekend to handle 300 cars? I assume a sophisticated traffic study was done. I have not heard anything about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I was under 3 minutes. Chris Anderson, 3rd Street in Beach Haven. People come up here and stand and say that there's nobody living on 3rd Street or on the lagoons. If the project were moved to Pennsylvania Avenue, it would then affect all of us who live on the lagoon. There is a house directly across, a brand new house. There's one on the corner across from the Tuna Club. And then all the way up 3rd Street, our whole lot, our whole view would be lost. But that 2nd Street people would be happy. 3rd Street people, not so. That's number one. Number two, if you move the project over to Pennsylvania Avenue, that takes away from boat storage. The marina cannot be operated the way it fully should be operated and the way everybody wants it to be operated. So you would lose all the boats, winter boat storage, can't operate the marina without that. Thank you.
Yes?
Thanks for allowing me to speak. I'm Holly Fazla, I'm from Center Street, and I've not been around since the beginning of the planning stages because a lot of that happened in the winter and whatever else, and the reason to the 3 stories. But I can anecdotally tell you that at the beginning of the meeting, I think it was said that there are going to be less day trippers because there are less homeowners renting. And I can tell you that there are less homeowners renting because of the New Jersey proposed short accommodation taxes that have not yet been repealed or signed by Governor Murphy. So I know that I am short 2 weeks, and a lot of my other people who have been fighting this for the last year are short rental weeks because they're fighting the accommodation tax. So, also, Mr. Vernon had suggested that hotels do wonderful things for the community. Well, my husband and I moved here to the historic district on Center Street to preserve the historic district of Beach Haven, to preserve the charm of the town. And I can tell you that living on Center Street next to the seashell, that hotels don't do wonderful things for the community. All you need to do is look at a Thunder Thursday, or, people stumbling home drunk at 3 o'clock in the morning, being overserved, whatever, doing, holding weddings that are just absolutely disruptive to the peace and quiet of the neighborhood. And I know that I'm not allowed to, introduce, things said by the rest of the community in my neighborhood, but I am here to represent them, saying anecdotally, we are completely and totally against 102 room being bussed up to the busiest street on the island. I mean, all one had to do was go up to Memorial Day weekend to see that the little strip on Center Street and the littler street on the strip on Center Street was completely, like, you could not find space. And now we're taxing not only the infrastructure, but we're asking our public service people to do more. And I just think that, keeping the charm of Beach Haven and keeping the homeowners maybe in your sights for once instead of the taxes that are coming in from businesses would be such a lovely idea. We would all really, really sincerely appreciate that. So with that said, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jim Vogel, 528 Dock Road, Maritime Museum. I'll start by saying that we do support this, but I'm somewhat confused. I'm listening to all this comment, and I'm hearing CAFRA, and I'm hearing the charm of Beach Haven, I'm hearing a lot of wonderful things, and then I look at the agenda. And the agenda says we are simply amending the redevelopment plan to allow for increased height. And I'm wondering what's all this other talk have to do with what the ordinance is. We should be addressing the height. And one final word is, it is the Marine Commercial District. Residential use has moved in, but it's still the Marine Commercial District. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bob Stevens. My wife and I own a summer cottage at 201 Coral Street here in Beach Haven. I think we all ought to be reminded that one of the first things I can remember about Morrison's was the Acme Hotel across the street. And one of the other first things I remember about Beach Haven was the Baldwin Hotel. So you are a town that was really built on hotels. And here comes someone who has made, I think, a brilliant showing. As you can see when you drive onto Long Beach Island, that Mallard Island Club is just a stunning, good-looking, well-kept building, as is the property on Quonnet Island, and then coming across the causeway into the LBI Hotel is an experience. So you've got a developer who has built something quite attractive right in our neighborhood and has shown, I think, a very good taste in terms of his commercial interests against what the place looks like for everyone else. And for at least our family, we would welcome your approval of this project and to get on with it and allow the marina to operate as it has. They do a wonderful job, and to disrupt that by moving the hotel on the other side, I think would be a disservice to that whole operation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barry Hetzberger, I live in Morrison's Marina in the summertime, and I live in Pennsylvania during the winter. I read about what everyone says. I find it interesting. How many people in this room have a vested interest in the gentleman's business that is going to be putting up a hotel? Anybody? You all have something to say about how you're going to spend his money, but you don't put any money towards it. Okay, that's great.
Yeah, just speak into the microphone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing. So it's, everybody has their opinion. The gentleman has a process that he has to go through. He's not going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars if he doesn't own the property. Everyone understands that. He does not own the property yet. So he's not going to spend all that money. I spent my whole life as a construction superintendent doing this kind of thing. It's a very long, involved process. The government has certain guidelines you must follow. CAFRA has certain guidelines you must follow. The borough has certain guidelines you must follow. You have a checks and balances. He brings the print to you guys. The engineering company go over everything, and it's all taken care of. The one gentleman said it correctly. We're here tonight for one reason, and one reason only, and that's the height. Okay, so I think that's what they ought to decide on, the height. And the height is what it is. I think it's a great height. It means an open space. Hey, it sort of blocked my view, but I can look out the other way. People that bought houses on the other side of the street, you thought you were going to be there forever with a view? Hey, go open your top of your deck there. I'm sure you can probably look over the top of that. If not, look left. That's all.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak?
David Turner, 121 Glendola Beach Haven. My family first came here in the early 1950s. Grandfather bought a property on Glendola in 55. There were only 4 houses on Glendola when he bought them. Everything else was vacant lots. There were a lot of vacant lots in Beach Haven at that time. There are no more vacant lots in Glendola. Some of those houses were built within the view of the ocean. Those people are now our neighbors. They're now my friends. I sit with them on the beach. It's part of the reality of property and when it gets developed. A lot has changed. The population in the country has doubled since the 1950s when we first moved here. Change is inevitable. You have before you tonight an amendment that allows for increased height of a resolution that already was approved. The reason we're here is because Mr. Vernon was sensitive to the concerns of the neighborhood and proposed a 3-story building with some open space so we could preserve some of those things. When it was made that we're in a commercial zone here. There was a restaurant on that corner for many years. I used to go to that restaurant all the time. I go to the Catch. I used to go to the Catch and I go to Burton Bays. I went to Burton Bays the other night. It was great. Thank you, Mr. Burris. Enjoyed it. And I sat on that deck. The view is beautiful from Burton Bays. They're still going to have a beautiful view from Burton Bays. I understand the concerns of traffic and views and parking and all that. But I urge you as a council, I urge the community to figure this out and approve it. Because this is good for Beach Haven. It's good for business owners. It's good for people who want to go there. It's good for the fringe season. It's good for many reasons. So, and I hear people move it to Pennsylvania Avenue. It occurs to me that that whole service area to the marina is on Pennsylvania Avenue. If you move it to Pennsylvania Avenue, now all those, when they pull those boats out, they're going to be pulling out on the 2nd Street. A lot more room on Pennsylvania Avenue for that sort of thing. So it makes sense where it is. The amendment makes sense to increase the height. Obviously, there's a long way to go for this proposal in terms of architectural view and CAFRA. That's all going to be before you. You'll all have to consider those things when those happen. But you need to give this man who's made a sensible proposal for Beach Haven, who's been sensitive to the community's needs in the area. You need to give him a chance to get this thing approved, because this is a good thing for Beach Haven. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak?
Don Cax, 5th Street, Beach Haven. Just 2 quick points. One is that you have 11 members of the Land Use Board who devoted time and effort at no cost to this community, who heard a lot of conversation and dialogue at the Land Use Board meeting over the last couple of months. I think their recommendation was to move forward with this, and I think you ought to respect the fact that these people are only looking for the best interests of Beach Haven, and you got to respect the fact that these 11 people all voted unanimously in favor of the 3-story building, recognize the benefits over a 2-story building. Second thing, just a point of clarification, it was not a unanimous decision to deny the elevator in a residential area. Last week it was voted down 5-2, but 2 months prior, in a residential area, a person with a hardship was permitted to have an elevator that exceeded 35 feet. So just a point of clarification, the Land Use Board thinks what's in the best interest of Beach Haven, and that's how they perform. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to get up and speak?
Janine Cleaver, 129 Ocean Street and 525 2nd Street. I just want to clarify 2 things. One, the previous Marston's restaurant seated 350 people. I believe the figure you got from was, that you got your information from, was perhaps the architectural rendering we had done ourselves to, and the other thing is about Pennsylvania Avenue. If you look there, and you want to keep a working marina, there's no possibility of winter storage like we do now anywhere but there. for the travel lift to come out where it does and go right into a hotel, it's, the only way that's gonna work is to keep the businesses delineated and working independently and individually. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Michael Taylor. 102 rooms, 400 seats. How many workers for the hotel? How many workers for the restaurant? How many boats do you have? I expect the guys that have boats have cars. A lot of cars, 500-600 cars at least. There's no room, it's gonna be Manhattan. You guys should really go slow with this, because this is gonna be here long after all of you are gone. It'll marginally increase the season. It'll marginally help business owners. I operated for many years, I'm not open now, but I operated for many years. We are not important after Labor Day. It's a different type of people that come in the off-season, and they are wonderful. If I could have off-season people during the summer, I would be a millionaire. It's too much. It's too much. Charm. Why people come here, what they're trying to escape when they come here. We need to fiercely defend it. Okay? And sure, this needs to be developed, but this is too much. This is too much. 10 pounds of meat in a 5-pound bag. It's too much. And you need to think about it. Put it on a referendum. Everybody clapping, they like it. Put it on a referendum. See if everybody votes for it after all the points are ironed out what they were asking about. You know, I don't know what else to say. Oh yeah, I didn't realize you could live with Morrison's on your boat also.
People do.
No, I didn't realize you could. I recently saw a picture of Morrison's in the off-season with all the boats out. Where are they gonna put them up? Where are they gonna go? If you develop this, there's gonna be no room for it. No. Anyway, thanks.
Is there anybody else who wants to speak before I allow Mr. Harvey to come back to the microphone? Yes.
Excuse my back. Sorry. Mike Gallego, I'm from 6 Marine Street. I lived on Long Beach Island my whole life. Been in Beach Haven as a resident for over 30 years. Had as much stake even though we were there. I have to say something, and I'm not sure how the laws work, but people are worried about the height restrictions being too hard to ever. What if, heaven forbid, this falls through? Because I think it's a wonderful project. If it falls through, some developer comes in and wants to build 3-story houses. Isn't that going to obstruct views too? Your views? I mean, you have to weigh that all out. And me, I think this is the way to go.
Thank you. Again, is there anybody else but Mr. Harvey who would like to come forward?
Yes, I would. My name is Tom Hughes, 425th Street. Just a couple of quick comments. First of all, on behalf of my family, I'm the owner of the Seashell in Beach Haven, my wife and I, we fully support this project and we support the location that is being applied for. I'd like to assert Mr. Anderson's position that if this were to be moved to Pennsylvania Avenue, I'm sympathetic to the people who are upset about this in a second. We don't have 30 or 40 other families with the same thing, so we do support that location. Regarding the lady's comments about weddings, and the councilman pretty much for a long time. We've been at the Seashell for 60 years. I believe it's the third. We've done over 1,200 weddings at the Seashell. That's a wonderful thing. Most of the weddings are from children of people that live here. It's an opportunity for them to have their families come to Beach Haven, to be part of what they love. That's a wonderful thing. We support, we employ over 150 people in Beach Haven. That's a wonderful thing. Creating lifetime members will always be a wonderful thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so Mr. Harvey, you may come forward, and please try to keep it at 3 minutes because we do have a full agenda to get through tonight.
John Harvey, 211 2nd Street. I just want to go back to the parking issue for a second. And I didn't expect an answer from you. And Jay, it wasn't your accountability to parking, it was your accountability. We had an ordinance in place that allowed a 170 or somewhat seat place to be built without any additional consideration for parking, even the use of any public funds to create parking. You created that. Okay, that wasn't Jay's issue, and that wasn't what the note said, Jay. What I said, just so you understand, when the extension was built, there was an ordinance in place that didn't require any additional parking for Jay. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. Okay. What the Borough Council didn't do was look at the ordinance and say, maybe we have an issue here. Maybe we need to reconsider this. If we're adding 174 people, what are we going to do? So if we're adding 400 people to a restaurant, my question is, what are we going to do? Okay? And Chris, to my point about when I asked you the question about resituating this, everything you responded could fit into what I described here. And I appreciate the marketing enthusiasm, but I also think, and Tom, I get moving that other people are going to be pissed off, but at least it complies with the environmental requirement that be 100 feet back from the public.
Thank you. So I am closing the floor to public comment, and we now will vote on this ordinance that allows for increased height. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowmiller?
No.
Mr. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Maskell?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Ordinance 2019-18C, an ordinance amending Chapter 212 zoning, of the Borough Code, of the Borough of Beach Haven concerning impervious lot coverage requirements, exempting construction of affordable housing in the overlay zones of newly adopted impervious coverage requirements. Final reading.
This is final reading for this ordinance, so I'm opening it to the public. This is the permeable versus impermeable ordinance. Yeah, okay. That's fine, if everybody keeps quiet.